Roger Stone here for Colonial Metals Group. Colonial Metals Group helps Americans protect their future with the most trusted store of wealth in human history. That's actual physical gold and silver. If you're retiring or you're retired, go to colonialmetalsgroup.com/stone right now for your free Roger Stone Colonial Metals Group Retirement Protection Kit, or call 800-747-6589. That's 800-747-6589. Call now to receive your free home safe and up to $7,500 in free silver.
It's a common sense recap of the big stories. It's Katz and Cosby on 77 WABC.
We continue, of course, with John and Judge Richard Weinberg, and also in studio, our great special guest for today, former Deputy National Security Advisor, the great Victoria Coates. And joining us now, we have Congresswoman Anna Paulina Luna from the great state of Florida. And Congresswoman, we're thrilled to have you here. You have been fighting the big fight. And to me, it seems like a basic thing that only U.S. citizens should be able to vote in federal elections. And yet, on the last vote of this, it's called the SAVE Act, where it's election integrity. 198 Democrats voted against it. You guys are going to try to push this again. How big of a problem is this? And what does it say that somebody would vote against that?
I mean, it's a huge problem that you have members of Congress who don't actually want to uphold election integrity. And I think you can actually hear many of them, to include representatives from New York, that are saying, you know, we need new voters because we're losing all of our voters to red states like Florida. So, that's extremely problematic. So what Speaker Johnson is potentially considering doing, and I think what is likely going to happen, is they're going to attach the SAVE Act in the CR. Now, there are some members that are saying that they might not vote for that. And if they don't vote for that, what ends up happening is we ultimately end up basically risking an omnibus. And frankly, I think that would be the worst thing that could happen. So we'll see what happens this week, but that's kind of what we're thinking as of right now. And
that is to add it to the continuing resolution. So for funding, so attach it to funding. So then they're on the record on the Senate side, if they vote down against it. Victoria Coates, you have a question?
Just very quickly, Representative Luna, can you speak to the motivations of the Republicans who would vote against the CR if the SAVE Act were attached to it? Because that's what I think most Americans don't understand.
Republicans or Democrats?
There's some Republicans that have, I think there's Republicans that have their heart in the right place in the sense that they don't want to vote for any CR, and frankly, we should be doing the single subject appropriations bills. That's something that we've all been advocating for since we got elected, and you saw that play out during the Speaker's fight in January. But then you have another faction of Republicans who potentially don't want this CR because it would allow for us to have a second bite at the apple in January under a Trump administration, where we also have the Senate and the White House. And so those Republicans, I think, are doing it for more nefarious reasons and would prefer an omnibus. And an omnibus would just be not good for anyone in the country. And so what we're trying to do is say, hey, look, we can actually get appropriations bills done. We can actually do something for the country, but, you know, we need your vote. So I think people need to really look internally as to why they're in politics, because at the end of the day, if we risk an omnibus, everyone loses. The Trump administration is going to lose. We're going to lose. And so I think that, you know, if they vote against it, they should be held accountable to their constituents.
Yeah, and America loses. Judge Weinberg.
Good to talk to you, Congresswoman. The problem is, let's go back to basics. Only citizens can vote in federal elections. And how do we know whether they're citizens or not unless we have voter ID? And I don't know how anybody can be against voter ID. What are they saying? Why they're against voter ID? Why is that so outrageous?
You know, the big argument that I've heard, and I've heard a lot of this in left-wing news sourcing as well, is that, you know, discriminatory or somehow it would prevent people from actually wanting to, like, voter intimidation is how they try to chalk it up and serve it. Obviously, that's not true. In fact, I think we have a big problem here because, remember, several months ago, we had a massive breach in all of our Social Security numbers being leaked. And so what this would do specifically in the SAVE Act is it would actually require two forms of basic citizenship in order to be able to be registered to vote. So it's pretty common sense. In fact, you need IDs to buy cigarettes and alcohol. Why shouldn't you have an ID to vote? And so, interestingly enough, the same people that voted against this had voter IDs, and they had their IDs checked at the DNC convention. So it just shows the hypocrisy in the matter.
How widespread, and everybody, we're talking to the great Congresswoman Anna Paulina Luna from Florida. How widespread do you think some of the issues with like voter rolls are? It's astounding. And I think, you know why it's so important, Congresswoman? We had on Glenn Youngkin not too long ago, and he was saying that he's found thousands on his, voter rolls that shouldn't have been there. Many of them non-citizens.
Texas as well.
Texas as well. And in a tight election, as we're looking at right now, that could make all the difference, right?
Yeah, no, I think so. And so what we're seeing is there in a lot of places, they actually basically did purge the voter rolls. I know I talked to the chairman in Nevada, actually, and that was something that they were happy about. But we've seen it across the country, and I think that election integrity, that's the first